please give a great big Steel City welcome to Josh Dela Cruz, Kathleen Herles, and Donovan Patton. And we have a special guest of Backpack.
Hi.
Hola!
Hi.
That worked, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Be careful of the switch, and I think Richard Dreyfuss just kind of messed up all the microphones, so...
I blame Richard for so many things. Yeah, mainly.
It's an honor.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Again, if you have questions, please line up right over there. I will be over with the mic, so... And I love seeing the
Did
charge.
Richard mess with that mic, too?
Did I mess with this mic?
No, did Richard Dreyfuss mess with that one? Because, I don't know. I hear, this is what word on the street is, Richard Dreyfuss likes to mess with microphones. Okay,
I heard that somewhere.
I'm going to move on.
So I do have to ask, when you started getting into acting, was it your intention to end up as such prominent children entertainers, or did you figure you'd be in the next Bond film?
Well, okay. Well, oddly enough, when I was auditioning for Blue's Clues, around the time of my screen test, I had done screen tests for both Blue's Clues and Blair Witch 2, I think, in the same week. So no, it was not. It was a surprise to me. I don't know. I was an actor in New York doing some Shakespeare, doing plays and stuff here and there, and I had a sister who was 4 at the time I was hired and was 6 at the time I basically started. I still have a sister, but she was younger at the time. She hasn't disowned me yet. There's time.
And is she still your younger sister?
Oh yeah, still.
Okay, just
Still.
that's how time works.
She tried to catch up, but I'm keeping pace ahead of her. It was just those two things. It was like, I don't know what's gonna land, and it did.
Well, we're glad it did. Josh?
Oh. I did not. I thought I was going to be in theater, and I didn't ever think that I would be in children's television because I think growing up, you just don't know what you're going to get into. Like, I never thought that I would be an actor. I just got into it because, my older sister told me that I was going to audition for the High School Musical. And then once I got there, I was like, oh, this is really, really useful. I used to have a hard time reading out loud in class. And so it really taught me to, slow down and, help me with my anxiety, to take things slowly. And then when I got this job, it's the best job I've ever had. I'm so thankful for it because I got to learn so much. I've always wanted to work in film and television after I realized, why are you limiting yourself to just theater? What else is there? And then I got to meet Joe and Steve and whoever this guy is. It's an honor to be here and to know that Steve and Donovan are great people. I was very nervous to meet them, and now they're like family, and it's a family reunion whenever we get together.
Nice. $20, right? It's 20. Sweet.
I'm just sitting here hearing you guys. That's amazing. I'm just like you guys. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So for me, I was actually 7 years old when I started doing the voice of Dora the Explorer. Beforehand, my mom threw me into everything, modeling, pageants, all of it. So it was kind of my life at the time, but I didn't realize how big Dora would get. And for me, looking back, looking back at it now, it was like another life. I feel like it was so long ago. I did it for 10 years. And now that I'm older, I appreciate it so much more because I didn't realize how important the show was for the Latino community and the representation that it had for so many families. And I feel so honored and blessed to have been a part of it. And now I'm excited to be here, to meet all of you, to meet all of the fans who grew up with me. And I'm just excited for the future. I think this is so awesome. And I'm happy to be here with these guys. This is my first time meeting Josh, but I met Donovan when I was 10 years old, and I have a picture, and I showed it to him, and I was like, we need to take another one. So this is just coming full circle for me, so it's awesome.
Did we reenact the poses?
We need to.
That needs to happen.
Yes.
That needs to happen.
Yeah.
That definitely needs to happen. Okay, our first question over here.
Okay, I got a question for Kathleen. There was an episode of Sesame Street on you back in 2000. What's it like being on there before voicing Dora?
Oh, man. Okay. When I tell you the amount of times I auditioned for Sesame Street, it was equivalent to auditioning for Law & Order as an adult, because getting on Law & Order, it was like, once you did it, you were like, it, right? As a child, that was the same thing for Sesame Street. To be a part of Sesame Street was so hard. But I got in there, and it was awesome. You see, like, all of the puppets and, like, all of the actors, like, rolling on, like, these, like, I forget what you call them. They're like those, they're like wheelies.
Dollies.
The dollies, yeah. They were on dollies, and I was like, whoa, like, this is not Sesame Street at all. But it was so fun. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Thank you for your question.
That is awesome. Next question.
I have a question for all three of you. First, Kathleen, what made you want to do Dora the Explorer, like voice her?
So it kind of just fell on my lap, and that was my voice. So, I'm a little different than other voice actors because I didn't make it up. That was just me 24/7. So you could imagine my older brother hated me. He was 4 years older, so the opposite. But yeah, that was my voice. And I could still do it now. Sweet for no sweeping!
Josh, what is your opinions on Blue's Clues, and do you think you will still be doing Blue's Clues?
Oh, well, here's the no. So, I love the show dearly. I really never thought that I would enjoy this type of work, but when I got there and realized how much it took, how many different departments it takes to make live action and animated come together for this show where we're talking to the camera. Growing up, it was always Mr. Rogers for me. And so yeah, that's right. It was always Fred Rogers. And when I was auditioning for the show, I was like, I think this is something that I want to do. And then I saw, it was like the final week of my screen tests, and the Mr. Rogers documentary came out. And I remember catching an early matinee because I had work later that day. And then the credits rolled, and then everybody just stayed seated, was still seated, and there was just a collective sniffle. And I was like, I've never been so afraid of saying, I want this job before in my life. And I told that to my wife. And so this show means so much to me. So many amazingly talented people work on the show to make it happen. And I wish that I could do it forever, and that we could keep doing it, because it means so much to so many of us in so many different ways. And I got to work with Donovan, not just as an actor, but also as a writer and a director on the show, and he's fantastic. Yeah, I love the show, and I hope we can do it forever.
Yeah, and for Donovan, what were your thoughts and opinions on Steve leaving and you being the new host of Blue's Clues?
Oh, you're gonna get it.
I needed a job, so I was like, Steve, it's time to get an education. You've been hanging around this house.
It's time to move out.
Listening to your puppy, for crying out loud, for a bunch of years. You know your shapes, you know your letters. It's time for college. No, a lot of it, that's what's one of the funny things about being an actor is there are certain times when you just don't know what job you're going to get. So you put yourself out there a lot, and you hear no almost all the time. And it's not a no, and it's a hard thing to reconcile as an actor, just, essentially like, because you're trying, because whatever you're putting yourself into, you got to put your emotions into it, you got to put work into it, you got to put thought into it, and you got to, essentially, if you don't care, I don't know, in my opinion, it's time to move on. With whatever you're doing. It's like, I understand you can do it for a certain amount of time, but if you're going to be doing something, it's important to mean it, in my opinion. And so so when you hear no so often, it's hard to really understand that it's not you that's wrong. It's they're trying to find the right fit, because a lot of what we do is it's really important what the audience is going to see on you. And sometimes you just don't necessarily land in the way that you think you might. you know, and all the work you're doing internally doesn't necessarily present the same way, you know, that in the mix with all the other people that they're also casting and stuff like that. So I didn't really know that Blue's Clues was going to happen. You know, you put yourself out there a ton and you kind of are like, oh, I guess this one makes sense. I guess this is where I fit right now. And that ends up being the job you get at that particular moment. So, but it's you know, it's a blessing. You know, thank you so much.
Quick follow-up, Donovan. Were you a little bit intimidated? You know, thinking about the audience who is like, Steve had been in Blue's Clues for so long and you're taking over, stepping into those shoes.
I was blissfully unaware. Like, I knew about it a little bit because, you know, my little sister was exactly like the prime Blue's Clues ages. But no, I didn't quite know. Actually, it was we had a fun, when it came time to my screen test, it was me and, I don't know, 3 or 4 other guys. I didn't get to meet them. But in the middle of my audition, someone had said to me, they said, you know, you sound exactly like Matthew Broderick. And I was like, I didn't know what to say to that. What do you say to that? So like my mind just starts spinning. I'm like, okay, response. And the only thing that came out was, funny, people usually tell me I sound like Christopher Walken. And then Steve did this slow burn to camera and the crew started laughing. And so it turns out Steve was just, he would play a game, like, who would be the worst host of Blue's Clues of all time? And he was like, Christopher Walken, like, hey, come in. It's good to see you. You know, can you imagine? It was be terrible. And so basically he pulled me aside in the screen test and he said, okay, when they tell us to go again, let's both be walking. And I was like, you're on. So he's like, Joe, how you doing? You want to play Blue's Clues today? Blue's Clues? What's that? Oh, you never played? No. We are going to play Blue's Clues because it's a really great game. Yeah? Oh, yeah. You know, so it just
Wait,
I don't know.
need that footage.
That's how I got that job. I'm convinced.
That is so awesome. So awesome.
Legend.
We have another question here.
So this is for all 3 of yins, this question. So yins have like a background in like theater, pageants, etc. How do you think that those previous experiences shaped your respective roles for Blue's Clues and Dora?
It's a really good question. I think for me, the main takeaway, I would say, doing modeling and pageants, it really helped, I guess, with nervousness or like also helped with being in a room full of adults and not feeling like scared or intimidated and taking direction really well. I think that really helped set me up for an acting career and being the voice of Dora because most of my life I would just work with adults. There was very few times where I recorded with other kids, but I think doing that from such a young age really helped me with that.
Yeah, that's great. I would totally agree with that as far as my personal experience. That and also one of the things I tell young actors that ask me if I have any advice is that to live a full life, you know, if you love theater, what else do you love? When you go to study acting in school or just in life, you don't know what you're good at yet. So don't say no just because you think that you would be bad at it. And it's so very rare that people are good at the thing they end up being great at right at the beginning. So just like, what do you love about it? Have fun. And so having all of that experience growing up and trying to remind myself of that every single day helps shape the perspective that I bring into the show. So, you know, they hire you for your perspective on the role. And, you know, the more that you live and love life, the more that you can pull from and be silly and be vulnerable with.
Yeah, and you'll have better stories at parties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you just do one thing your whole life, then you got one party story. That's great. If you get talked to once, you want a lot of party stories. I agree with all of that stuff in terms of, you know what's funny? I'm just putting it together now. You worked with Katie McQuain, right, for a long time?
For years.
I'm now working on a show that she is the voice director of
No
called
way.
Gabby's Dollhouse.
That's
so it's like,
amazing.
We got to say hi to Katie.
love it.
I didn't put that together until just now. I do cat rat. Cat rat's this way. I don't know. Anyway, on another show. But I would say projection is important. You know, it helps. And then, but yeah, they're two very different mediums, the theater and working with a camera or working with a microphone. It's very vastly different. You know, because I can't keep my body still, even now, in front of a microphone. And if you go off mic, you can't be heard anymore. It's really important to stay on mic. So I'll like keep my head in one spot and the rest of my body's just dancing all over the place. It's ridiculous. So yeah, knowing which direction to put your face is always important.
I think you just gave us a Richard Dreyfuss flashback with that mic stunt. Here is our next contestant on I Have a Question.
This is for all three of you. What was like the best part of being on a show?
The best part of being on the show.
Man, it's hard to pick one thing. I'm sure you guys can agree, but I think my life, I'm talking about fullness, I feel like my life has been so full just from being a voice actor and being the voice of Dora. Like I said before, the impact that she has. Some of you that I met and the families that I've talked to, you know, you talk about those moments when you're sharing the moment of watching a show with your grandmother, with your child, or with someone from your family and how those memories impacted your life. And hearing those stories and knowing that I was a part of that, like that touches like deep. Like I'm already getting emotional. I could cry. But like that's something that, you know, you can't take away, and that's something so special, like for me, to be a part of your lives. And just as a voice, you know, that's the best part, I think, for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's strange. You know, you go from job to job, you get your hopes up, auditioning for work, and then you finally get the job. And the best part about every job for me is the people. It's the people that I work with. It's the people that I meet. And because we can't do it together, I literally change clothes for a living. And then we play this imaginary game all together, and where we bring this to life together. Because, you know, as realistic as TV and film can look, it's still all imaginary. And we're all working together to bring that to life. So whenever we get the chance to meet everyone that watches the show and appreciates the show, and I get to tell my coworkers who don't get that opportunity because they're working behind the scenes, I can't tell you how much that means to them, because they spend a lot of time away from their families working on this show for all of us. And so the people is hands down the best part about every job.
Absolutely. Yeah, any art needs an audience. It's a communal experience. Otherwise, it's just practice. So seeing the effect of that, you get that in theater, to go back to the theater thing, you get that reaction instantly. You know if something's working. But you know, in film or television or animation, it takes years sometimes for something that you've been working on, like to go actually reach people, and reaching people is the whole point.
Yeah, there's just to add on to that. There's, you know, about finding an instantaneous reaction. In theater, you know if something works. Like on set, I remember when I first started, I was like, "Was that good? Was that funny?" And then the director would be like, "Yeah." I was like, "I don't believe you."
Except for when you broke it just now, you should have kept acting until I said cut. You just ruined it. It was working. Darn it.
What?
That's my directing style. It's just to shout.
He's real rough. Really
Again.
rough. He'll beat you up and then build you back up.
Yeah. It was like, Josh, okay, we're going to need you to do this again, but, what's the word? Better. No, it's amazing. He's like, you know, they make us... Richard. They make us do extra takes just for safety with Josh. He really only needs one most of the time. You know, it's like, I think I go with take 2 more often when I'm directing you than I think any other take, if I would call it, because you have your select and then your backup, whatever. Take 2 is almost always the select.
Good notes.
Fun fact.
Did you know that before?
No. No, I think after take 2, all the notes that he gives me, I
Yeah.
just don't do.
I'm just justifying my presence
So
at
I
that
think
point.
that's probably why it's like, all right, this is as good as it's gonna get.
It's like, do it. Just do it again. Do it.
Now he's not going to do take 3s anymore. I should never have said that. Dang it.
I think the three of you should just make your own show at this point.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Well,
all right.
maybe you just have to be a little more,
That's right.
lenient for me. Okay. I don't know if I can handle all of that.
No.
You got this.
Our next question.
Hello, I have a question for Donovan.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel not getting the part in Blair Witch 2 at the time compared to now? How do you feel now?
Oh man, well let me tell you about. I was so excited for that audition because it was directed by Joe Berlinger, who has made like a lot of really amazing and intense and scary documentary films. Just the subject matter of that is very un-preschool. But I got to meet him, and it was like, and this particular audition was it's a very vivid memory. It's these two people that they're starting to kind of come under some kind of influence, and so they're talking with each other, but then they start to make out, and which is very unusual to do that in an audition. Normally, like, you're not doing that, in like on camera or whatever. But then they start like clawing at each other at the end of it or whatever. It's just really still. It's just like kept changing and changing and changing. It was like, this is an intense experience. Okay, I just remember that because it was very unusual for an audition for that to happen. So, I mean, I was like, that would have been kind of a fun job, and that was such a gigantic property at the time. I remember it's amazing just in how just a short amount of time technology has advanced. So like they didn't want to give the sides out for that movie, so they printed them on red paper. Because a Xerox machine, wouldn't be able to show you what like the subject matter of the movie was. Nobody could get the full script. Nobody knew what it was. So it was just very like a weird, mysterious thing. And so at that time I wasn't like bummed because, like I said before, it was one of many. But I do remember that audition. I don't know. And then showing up on Blue's Clues, they're like, "What's this show? Like, what are we doing here? We're on a blue screen all the time. Nobody else is here, really?"
So you didn't get to make out with Blue?
Nope.
If you play them side by side, eerie.
Yeah.
And our next question.
Nor Steve. Yeah, you do.
Okay, so this question is for Kathleen. So I know that you were young when playing Dora, so I'm just kind of curious. Did you go out and play pretend as Dora?
No, but that would have been really funny. As a kid, I was actually really shy. But the minute I got into the booth, I was probably like Donovan. I was like all over the place. Like the mic was like my best friend. Like that was just me. But outside of that, like the most I would give people was like a smile. I was such a shy kid. But yeah, I grew out of it, thankfully.
Excellent. And we have a super question here.
This is for all three of you, and it's a very specific question, so if you don't have one, that's fine. What is the weirdest line you've ever had to deliver as your character?
You're going to have to give me a second. The weirdest line.
Oh.
Do you have one?
I mean, one immediately jumped to mind. Okay. During the Blues Room days, for some reason, there was an episode where we were milking a cow, and it was just such a, like, looking back at that, I was just like, it was very strange, because it's an interactive show.
Yeah.
It's like, will you milk with me? That's weird. I don't know if that's the exact line. I can't remember if that's the exact line, but think about that.
No,
that's odd.
That happens a lot because the script goes from like people writing it and then they don't. And you've experienced this as a writer, where the research team will get it, they'll test it, then they'll rewrite it and then bounce it back to him. So by the time it airs, that's not actually the script that Donovan wrote.
No.
But there's so many lines that I can't think about. But when we said it out loud on set, we were like, "Cut. We can't ever say that."
that'll turn into a meme so fast. Like, we can't say that, even though it's very clear, and like, yeah, kids will respond to it, but then you'll get the twisted mind of an adult with internet service, and you'll be like, we will never say that, and so that line dies.
Yeah.
I can't think of something specific, but like they said, like the show is so, like it's so much about engagement. Like I'm pretty sure, like looking back, or if I rewatch the show, I'm sure there's a lot of things that I said that as an adult would be, kind of weird. But I think even more awkward than that, at least for Dora, I'm sure all of you make fun of her, is that when she asks you a question, it's like, who do we ask for help, but we don't know which way to go? For like 5 minutes, and you're like, okay, let's move on. And then, like, it's just always the awkward, dead spaces that I don't deal with, but you guys deal with them, and that's awkward. I'm sorry for that.
All right, we have another question over here.
What is the weirdest fan interaction that you've ever had with anybody?
The weirdest fan interaction.
I got one. First of all, every in-person fan interaction has been absolutely lovely, and I'm so thankful for it because I don't have a good answer in that sense. However, I did get, and this is when I stopped answering DMs. They asked me, and I'm sure it was a very innocent thing, but they asked me, do you sell pictures of your feet? And I bounced this to my agents, and I was like, how do I handle this? And we were like, don't. And I was like, okay, got it. So that's the weirdest interaction that I haven't had in person. But otherwise, in person, it's been a really, really rewarding, and just, I'm just so thankful. Like, I'm pretty much welling up in tears all day. Trying just to keep it together because I'm so thankful that people love the show as much as they do. But no, I don't sell pictures of my feet.
Damn.
I would love it if you just sent back some pictures of some feet and they write you back, these aren't your feet, Josh.
It was a completely objective question.
Josh, these aren't your feet.
For scientific purposes. That I twisted.
Yeah, no. I once met a fan on the back of a hydrofoil. That's a terrible joke. I got it. I got one. Who are you? Raise your hand.
On.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for that. All you need is one. Because it's like, a big fan on the back of a boat blows you around. It's great. No? Still no. Okay. Losing them.
Yeah, losing them.
Yeah. No, I completely echo what Josh has said. Like when you meet people in person, there's no substitute for it. It's been pretty awesome. I once challenged Triple H to an arm wrestling match, and that was pretty interesting because he said something like, "Well, you got to have arms first." Oh! And I was like, I can't get. There's no winning this. So I just started crying and immediately ran away.
You stumped me with that question. I can't think of one. I don't know. I mean, the only I'm thinking about it, which isn't a fan, but my booth neighbor is Nick Castle, and I have this huge life-size Dora doll standing right next to him. And I'm like looking at him. I'm like, yeah, you didn't think you were gonna be sitting next to this girl all day, did you? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. But I did catch a really good video of him like stabbing the Dora doll and me screaming on the side. So that's going to be a really good one. So
that's so good.
Watch out for that one. It's pretty good. Yeah.
No, can you imagine Dora running away from Michael Myers? It was just like, should I hide in the closet?
I'm telling you, it's amazing. I did a video of, I kept posting her on social media and everyone's like, oh my goodness, that looks like Megan. I was like, say no more. The next video was Dora as Megan and had the music in the background. It was like a whole thing. It was amazing.
That's the crossover we need.
That's a crossover.
That's what
Dora, Steve, Joe, and Josh trying to escape just Michael Myers, but asking the home viewer for help, but waiting 4 beats.
Waiting 4 beats as he gets closer. Ooh.
It's a good one.
What
It happened here. It happened here.
What should I throw at him? Should I throw the triangle?
That's right. That's right.
And then Mike Myers is just like frozen here waiting for your answer.
This jar of angry bees?
All right, we have another question over here.
Hi, I will say first of all that based on what Josh just said a few seconds ago, I first actually think that might have not been anything against Josh specifically with the feet thing. There's a big whole feet controversy with Nickelodeon, mostly with more adult shows with Dan Schneider.
Oh, you're so right.
It could have been something as far as that, so they might have just been taking it the wrong way. I don't know how true it actually is, the whole feet theory, but there's a whole thing with like Dan Schneider shows like iCarly, Victorious, etc. that have controversy about that, so they could have just been doing a joke about that.
Yeah, there was a whole thing. Yeah, you're so right. Okay.
But
thankfully, I've never met Dan.
Yeah, he left the network in 2018 from what I read.
That's around the same time I got the message.
What? You see Blue's feet all the time. I mean, she leaves the clues with him.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, paw.
But the question I was going to ask, I just wanted to point that out since I heard that because I thought it might have been helpful information. But the question I was going to ask is actually to Donovan. This question is as far as now, but I guess also at the time. How did you feel at the fact that they were using Steve's real name for the show, but then when you got the job, they changed your name from Donovan to Joe? And especially now with the fact with Josh having the role being Josh and not a different name, did your emotions feel any differently now compared to then?
No. At the time, Steve had done a few episodes of other things of television. So, having Steve Burns be Steve Burns and having Steve from Blue's Clues be Steve, they were trying to find as much separation as possible. Because I think, I think one of the things was like Law and Order. There was a Law and Order episode in there. There was a show, like some of the subject matter was pretty intense. And so, like, especially at that time, I think now people are a lot more used to it, given the internet and given, kids can just look stuff up on IMDb and they understand that people do multiple things. But at the time, especially for that age, you do have to be somewhat sensitive because your audience, we start understanding the wider world and we start understanding the differences between things that we see, especially if it's in your home. That's what's kind of interesting about our shows is our, we go into people's houses. That's where the content is. And especially for a preschooler, you have to respect that. But then as an actor, we want to be able to do as many things as possible. So when I was hired, they actually voted on what the name of of Steve's brother was going to be. Joe was decided on before I was even hired. And so and that was supposed to be for my benefit, to give me the separation between Donovan doing other actor things and then Joe being, the one who follows Blue around and just tries to find the shapes. It's hard. It's hard. So it was decided before I was even hired. Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't do that with the other actors, though. You would think they would do that with everybody.
Well, I think,
So they asked me. So when it got time for me, I auditioned with the name Nick. And then I thought, I guess they're going to name the character Nick. Little did I know that it's like, no, they're just using it as a placeholder because the company's called Nickelodeon.
Yeah, middle name L, last name Odeon.
I was like, Nick. Oh, cool, Nick. Nickelodeon. So when it came time for me, they asked me, Steve used Steve and Donovan used Joe. We would love to use Josh, but the alternative is Ben for my character. And that's completely up to you. And so I thought about it, and I was like, I put so much of myself into this character, and it's what it is. It's a character. It's just a piece of Josh interpreting the show. And, it just feels at home, and I thought that Josh would be great. And so that's why I chose to go with Josh. But, if you look me up on IMDb, there are a lot of the shows that I did not do. I don't know how to correct that. Dragon Tales, I love the show, but I was never in Dragon Tales. I would love to be in a war movie, but I was not in Point Man. But I was in CBS's Bull, and time after time, where I guess I have the typecast of being killed because I was killed in both of those. So
Time after time.
time after time.
Yeah. What he didn't know is that if it was going to be Ben, it was going to the last name of that character was Solo. You would have been the first Ben Solo. Right. Yeah. We should rethink that.
Win some, lose some.
Thank you so much for answering. I hope Steve got that same chance too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Oh, quick, Donovan, do you sell pictures of your feet?
No.
No.
I don't even know what my feet look like. I had my shoes surgically attached to my feet.
Yeah.
I had them glued on.
He does not sell pictures of feet, but I sell pictures of his feet. So just there's a separate website. There's a separate website.
All right, our next question over here.
Okay, so I arm wrestled you two on Blue.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about
Blue's
it.
Clues. Yeah, I just want to
I'm
know.
a little sore. I don't mind telling you.
I just want to know why you guys let me win. I know I already asked you, but now we got the crowd here.
All right. All right. As far as letting you win, I'm dealing with a bicep situation. There's a tear. I have to get it looked at. But, you're just going to have to accept that you not only are a kind and wonderful person, but you're incredibly strong.
Yeah. You may not be aware of your own strength.
I'm weak.
This sounds like some level 7 denial.
I don't think you're weak. And another question.
All right. Well, hello, Donovan, Josh, and hola, Kathleen. Wonderful,
Hi.
wonderful to have all three of you with us. I just wanted to say Blue's Clues and Dora the Explorer were some of my favorite shows growing up as a kid, and they always hold a special place in my heart.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Anytime. So the two-part question for all three of you is, what were your favorite episodes to do for both Blue's Clues and Dora the Explorer, and how did you all three of you get your start?
Okay, I have my favorite episode, so this is easy. I am a Disney super fan, and my dream as a child was always to be like a princess for Disney. And growing up, I didn't, think, that could ever be a thing for me. So they did a Princess Dora episode, and it was called The Fairy Tale Adventure, and Princess Dora became Princesa Dora, and that was like, you guys definitely just wrote this for me because you knew that this is what I wanted to do. It was amazing. Like Dora's hair grew, I had a whole crown, and the music was phenomenal. So like obviously Dora has a lot of music, so there's these great writers, and the music was just incredible. I just love it. I love all of it. There's this one song, I could just hear it, so I'm going to sing it for you. She goes to like the magic rocks, and she has like this magic music box, and she sings, she goes, how does it go? Wait. Here's a magic music box. If you play it near these rocks, boingy, 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 bing, we'll get these rocks to sing. Oh, I love it. It's just so good. I love the whole episode. It's amazing. And the second part of your question was how we got started?
How did you get your start?
How did you get? It was an audition. I got a manager through the modeling and doing all of those conventions. And Dora was one of my first auditions. I remember going to the studio. It was in Times Square at the time. I don't know if it's still there now. They would know. But yeah, and there were so many different kids. I had no idea. I was just, they have the script, and you just go in, do your thing, and they, tell you got it, and the rest is history. It's been a wild ride and so awesome. And yeah, pretty good.
I think my favorite episode, I don't have a single favorite episode. I love any episode where I get to be with Steve or Donovan or the both of them if I can. Like, I truly love these two people. The episode with Lola is one of my favorites just because, like, so many people know what Lola is now. And growing up, they're like, who's Lola? Or Lola, rather. I'm like, no, it's my grandma, it's Lola. And so it's really special to me that we had that. But any episode where my dog Ollie is hiding on set. So my dog Ollie is on set with me every single day. And if you know the Thankful episode where we have the book that looks like hands, the Thankful book, Ollie, at the end, I'm looking at the book and I'm sitting at the table. Ollie is sitting right at my feet. underneath all of the green, and so he's with me, and so that's my favorite, just because he's just the best little boy. I love that little guy. And then as far as how I got my start, auditioning, taking class, but honestly, I listened to my older sister when she said you're auditioning for the High School Musical. Had it not been for her, I would have never done it, because I'm a very shy person. I definitely have a lot of anxiety, and sitting here now, I'm comfortable. However, there's a lot of anxiety flowing through me as we speak, and so had it not been for that, everything would have been different.
Yeah, I completely agree. My favorite episodes are the ones where we all get to be in the same room. They're so much fun. There's one. I don't know when that's going to come out. Is it going to come out this calendar year, or
I
maybe?
don't know, but it's a really
There's a
good
fun one that Steve and Josh are mostly in, and I'm in there for a little bit, and we had a blast at the end of that one.
Also, one of the only episodes where there's another person on set in a green suit.
Oh yeah,
that rarely ever happens on our show, but there's someone hiding in plain sight.
Someone hiding, yeah, to do some. Is it Jason that was in the green suit?
The tallest person on set. You're going to be in a green suit, and you have to make yourself as tiny as possible.
Yeah, the most physical person that you could have to hide, we had to hide. That one was tons and tons of fun. Those are my favorites. I got my start. I mean, this is a question for you then. Do you mean first job sort of thing, or do you mean education? Like, when do you get bit by the bug?
I kind of meant first job, like an audition, for Blue's Clues and first job.
Oh yeah, well yeah, my first audition for Blue's Clues was I remember that I was waiting tables at this place called Pescatore on 51st Street and 2nd Avenue, and I got fired from that job 3 different times. And rehired. I would because one of them specifically was for Blue's Clues, because I had to run across town and go to my audition, and they were like, "You're in the middle of a double, dude." And I was like, "I'll be back. Just call it my lunch or whatever." And they're like, "If you're not back," and then I got back, and they were like, "Buddy, you were an hour and a half late," because it's sometimes you're just auditioning, and you gotta wait. They have to get through people, and those days end up going really long. So my first audition, I remember that they had us try to describe how to brush your teeth. And how would you do that and say that to a preschooler? I don't know. That was something. That tape's out there somewhere. But my first professional audition, oddly enough, I knew that I wanted to be an actor in 8th grade. I took a drama class because my brother was telling me about some Shakespearean plays that he had read in his drama class the year before. And Mary Johnson was my teacher. And she was my Spanish teacher and my drama teacher. She was amazing. And I did these one-act plays, and I knew right away, that first night, as we went through it, we were all scared, what's going to happen? And by the time we got done and we were bowing, my soul just all clicked into place. It made sense. So there's that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have one final question.
In a Indiana Jones movie, Harrison Ford made a slight mistake and was not in the script. There was an avenging person coming toward him that surely wanted to kill him, and he made a move for his whip, and his whip wasn't there. It was either his fault or the prop man, so he pulls the gun out and uses that and shoots the villain. And the director liked that so much, he kept it in the movie. I'll direct this to all 3 of you. Has there ever been a time that you've changed the script slightly and it was more exciting than what was written on the script?
Oh my gosh, I've only ever done that when there's scripts that Dono has written.
Yeah, it's true.
And Donovan, are you sending people to kill Josh?
And strangely enough, they're always sent to kill me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was weird. I actually wrote into a script. I said, Josh reaches for his gun to shoot the villain, and he pulled out a notebook. And I was like,
it was crazy.
Bruh.
It was crazy.
Come on, man. So he drew his sketch really quick, and the police apprehended him later. Josh's plan was better. Yeah. It was a better plan.
No, I think is that when the person with the sword comes at him, and then so instead of grabbing for that's an amazing. I did not know that.
Kudos to the sword guy also for knowing that he's just I guess I'm dead now. Thunk.
Yeah. Yes.
That's pretty great.
But as far as I don't know, I think there are tiny little things because once you get on set, it's the playground, right? And so everybody, the director's oh, try this, or I'm like, hey, can I try this? So it becomes a living, breathing thing that can change on the fly. And when it comes to working with Dono, you just get to play. And so it's one of the greatest things ever. So it happens all the time. I can't think of one specific instance. Can you? Or,
Is this because I don't know my lines? You telling everybody here I don't know my lines?
I did not say that, but yes.
Yeah, it's because I didn't know my lines. And usually I have like one line to say in my scenes. Can't even get that right. No, mine was actually the line that Joe now in Blue's Clues and You says, every day's a gift. Oh my God. That one I actually came up with on my own because he's in the present store, and I just Josh and Blue leave, and I just kept going for I don't know a couple of minutes. I just stuff that a shopkeeper might say as you leave. I don't know. It was like every day's a gift. That's what they say, but you can't give it back. There's no receipt for that gift.
Oh, no. What was the other one?
It was like, every day's a gift that you pay for, basically. So it's like, but every day's a gift because that's a positive sentiment instead of a cynical one. That one remained. So yeah, I got that one. I don't know. You probably, doesn't happen very often with Nickelodeon shows.
No, and for being a voice actor, I mean, you can always retake it again if I say it wrong or, but I think growing up, I did have a director with me in the booth, and after a few years, they were like, all right, you got it, you know who you are. And I think that's when I could, suggest things. Like if something was written, I'd be like, actually, I think Dora would kind of say it like this. And I would just do another take. I would do it the way it was written, but also do other ones and kind of, that's where I could, put my own writing into it,
Well, because you've read so many of the lines, and you form a relationship with the character that you can make suggestions, and you come from an informed place. Whereas season 1, episodes 1, episode 1, you don't really have that kind of information. You're just trying to find it, at least for me.
Well, Kathleen, Josh, Donovan, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Thank you, guys.
Give them a big round of applause. Visit them at their tables. Tell them stories that make them cry.
This is Debbie Derryberry, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, geniuses know you need to have fun and follow your fandom. Got a blast!